Jesse dragged his backpack behind him. Blood dripped steadily out of his nose onto the crisp white snow from the night before, leaving a faint scarlet trail that followed him as he turned the corner and made his way to his street. Benji Hatford had found him alone at recess again. So did Benji's imitation Super Bowl ring he'd gotten from his dad as an early Christmas present. Its imprint could be seen clearly on the side of Jesse's face. Jesse hated the third grade. He hated how small he was. He hated how all the numbers got jumbled up in his head. He hated how impatient the teachers were with him. But, most of all, he hated Benji. Jesse started out school not hating anyone. He wore his SpongeBob t-shirt to school and had all his pencils sharpened. But Jesse soon found out he was different. He had been told his whole life that being different was fine, sometimes the best thing. But he must have had the wrong kind of different, 'cause no one at school seemed to like his kind. He made up songs that he sang out loud in class. He pretended to be a gargoyle when he walked through the halls, and things that didn't make other kids cry made him cry a lot. They saw a sunrise in science class that he thought was so beautiful he started crying and couldn't stop. I guess that was too much for Benji. That day at recess, Benji asked Jesse why he was such a pussy. Jesse didn't know what that word meant, but the way Benji said it to him made him think that it wasn't good. Jesse told Benji that he wanted to go back inside, but Benji grabbed him by the arm when Jesse tried to leave. Benji then pushed Jesse to the ground and had his friends hold open his mouth while Benji spit into it and made him swallow it. That kind of stuff started happening every day. Jesse told his mom, who told the principal. I guess Benji's dad being on the school board made what Benji did okay, but Jesse didn't think so. Jesse started to have nightmares. His head dunked in a used toilet, everyone in class throwing things at him as the teacher laughed, his mom crying in the corner, her pretty makeup smearing with tears. Almost all of them ended with Benji wrapping a hoodie around Jesse's neck and pulling as hard as he could until Jesse woke up, sweating and gasping for breath. Jesse walked up to his house and opened the door with the key he had in his pocket. His mom was at work until late a lot because his dad was on a business trip with his secretary. Whenever his dad went on a business trip, he always brought Jesse back a present. The longer he was away, the better the present was. Jesse was looking forward to this present because his dad had been gone for almost 5 months. He dropped his coat and books on the ground and ran upstairs. He had work to do. He had to write his letter to Santa. This year was going to be different than the ones he'd written before. He started, Dear Santa, how are you? Does the North Pole have penguins? I read that it doesn't, but I thought you would know 'cause you lived there. I don't want any presents this year. I just want Benji Hatford to leave me alone. Maybe make him move away? Or hit his head and become a different person like that movie? That's all I want this Christmas. I just want it so bad it makes my head hurt sometimes. Thank you. Jesse Blute. Happy with his letter, he folded it, put it in an envelope he found in a drawer, and slapped as many stamps on it as he could find. Running outside in his slippers, he threw open the mailbox, put in his letter, closed the mailbox, and then dashed back inside. Jesse then tried to play the piano for a few hours like the man he saw on the internet, then gave up and got into bed. He tried staying up for his mother, but she wouldn't be back for hours. Try as he might to stay awake, he fell asleep. No nightmares this time. That night, a wind picked up outside the neighborhood. All the mailboxes of every house on the block started to rattle from the force of the gust. Eventually, the doors of the mailboxes started to pop open, one by one. Once the wind found its way inside, it gathered up all the letters for Santa. Every hope and dream and wish of all the children on the block were swept up into the air, high into the night sky, framed against a pale white moon. The letters were carried so high they were above the clouds. They were soon joined by other letters in Mandarin and Dutch and French and every other language possible. All the letters flew together like a great flock of stamped birds soaring through the sky. Destination, the North Pole. But as they continued their journey onward, something happened. Something that hadn't happened for a very, very long time. One of the letters broke off from the flock. It glided down in a spiral, plummeting towards the earth. Then, at the last second, it was buffeted by a small, cold wind. It started to dance in the wind like a feather, through the dark, frozen forest it found itself in. It finally made its way to a corner of the forest bereft of animal tracks or trees. Cut into the mountain towering above the vast forest was a cave. The letter wound its way to the cave and, with the last dying breath of that wind, landed softly at the mouth. The words, Jesse Blute, written in a childish scrawl across the front. Deep, deep in the cave, the sound of chains being dragged and the clip-clop of a large, hooved animal made their way out of the deep, dark depths. The sounds abruptly stopped just shy of the entrance to the cave. Then a large, thick, claw-like hand extended itself from the darkness and closed itself around the letter, dragging it back into the cave. The sound of paper being torn ripped through the silence. Deep laughter was heard, and the sound of chains being broken. Christmas came and went for Jesse. He played with his toys, watched his favorite Christmas movies, and sang carols with his mom and grandfather. But the next day, he was woken up by his mother sitting on his bed. She said she had something to tell him. She said that Benji Hatford had passed away. They were having the funeral in a few days and wanted to know if he wanted to go. He said no and asked if this meant he couldn't play with his toys because he was supposed to be sad. His mother replied no, he could play with his toys as long as he wanted, and hugged him tightly. When his mother left the room, Jesse could feel his shoulder was wet. His mother had been crying. He got out of bed and listened at the door. He could hear his mom on the phone. He could only make out a few phrases, though. Closed casket. No sign of a break-in. Unrecognizable. Jesse didn't think much of it, pulled out his toys, and started to play. That night, Jesse awoke to the sound of jingle bells. He sat up in bed and rubbed his arms, feeling a chill creep its way through his PJs. He turned to see if his window was open, but it was closed shut. Turning around to check and see if his door was open, he was met with a huge shape in front of him. As the shape moved forward, the moonlight from the window revealed red pants. Jesse was so excited. Santa! The shape moved fully into the light, and Jesse saw that it was not Santa. It was tall, taller than his dad by a lot, and his dad was taller than a lot of the other dads. It had big hooves like the ones he'd seen on goats when they went on that field trip to a farm. It was covered in dark hair like the shaggy dog his grandpa had when Jesse was little. The only thing not covered by hair were big, long horns that curved out of its head and almost scratched the ceiling of his room. White like a snowball, its face had a sharp nose that jutted out, and its mouth was full of mismatched, jagged teeth. You're not Santa? No, mein Kinder, I am not. But I did give you a gift. You did? Did you give me my socks? They're warm, but I don't really like how itchy they are. Jesse pulled his legs out from the covers and pointed at his feet. It laughed and pulled one of Jesse's small chairs next to his bed. It strained at its weight, but held as it sat down. Oh, no, mein Kinder. I am not to be giving your... What were they? Socks? These tongues do change over the seasons. So many seasons. I remember when you all had to huddle around the candles. It was easier then. But no matter how difficult it being, this special Kinder gets his gift. It reached into a sack it had draped across its shoulders and pulled out a tattered letter. The cow stamps that Jesse's mom loved to buy gave it away. You got my letter! He thought for a moment. Realization shone in Jesse's eyes. Did you make Benji pass away? It smiled, revealing a knife drawer of teeth. Jesse noticed something shining in a chain around its neck. A Super Bowl ring. How could I deny such a request? Are you happy? Did it make your days merry and bright, like the song? Jesse thought for a moment. So, Benji won't be bothering me anymore? No, mein Kinder. Benji won't bother you ever again. Jesse flung himself into the arms of the thing. It smelled like a dog and it was cold, but Jesse didn't mind. Jesse started to cry. He felt large, rough fingers stroking his hair. There, little blood. To show tears is bitter, is good. Jesse wiped his tears on the thing's carpet of hair. Can you tell Santa thank you too? Its smile died on its face. No. We do not trouble the Weihnachtsmann with requests such as these. It is, how do you say in your tongue, not clean enough for him. He must be the light of the winter, the roaring fire in the blizzard, with his laughter and his kindness and his big round belly. I must be his kleiner Schatten, his little shadow. The light of the Christkinder does not shine on the little shadow, or what it does. But what it does is very important. That is why it must be secret. Our secret. Between the two of us. I knew what you wanted, and I delivered. Now you see the power of such a request when made with such devotion. Perhaps next year we ask for the American football? I am knowing that American Kinder like to play with such things. Well, it is very late, and you need lots of the sleep to become the strong boy. So, mein little Jesse, vor Weihnachten. Oh, mistakes I make. Merry Christmas. Standing up, it reached into its sack once more to pull out a set of jingle bells, rang them, and in a fierce gust of wind, it was gone. Jessie sat there in bed, thinking. Mrs. Fletcher, old man Beeman next door, that mean dog that sometimes got out and chased him on his way to school. Jessie smiled. Tomorrow morning he would start his Christmas list for next year.